Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Wheel and Wilderness Workshop. Today, I wanted to give you a little background on why I decided to build a new hunting truck. But instead of having you look at me just talk, I figured I'd take you on a drive through the hunting grounds that I actually built this truck for, and these are actual videos from this year's hunting trip in early December. I've only been hunting for the last 9 years. I started in 2016, and that was my first year out for elk. I immediately fell in love with hunting for many reasons. It incorporated all the things I love to do, including hiking, camping, outdoors, nature, animals, guns, shooting, all the things I really enjoyed and really loved, so I latched on to hunting right away, and I've been an avid hunter ever since. Now, a little background on the area that we hunt. We hunt in northern Arizona on a cattle ranch that is about 800,000 plus acres and is very close to the south rim of the Grand Canyon. As you can imagine, 800,000 acres is a very large cattle ranch, and there's a lot of space there to hunt. Initially, when we started hunting in the first few years, we were up in the northern part of the hunting grounds. And conveniently, there was a highway. It's really a 2-lane road, but there's a highway that runs through the northern part of this cattle ranch. And we were able to take my trailer up there. I have an old fifth wheel that we've fixed up many times over. It is 20 plus years old now, but still works great. And I would tow that up there with my Duramax dually, and we would pull a little bit off the highway, and we would park our trailer, and then we would have a nice warm space to live in while we were hunting in the middle of December. It was a beautiful thing to be out and cold all day and then have a warm space to come back to where you could eat and sleep and be warm without suffering. As time went on, the northern part of the hunting grounds seemed to get more and more congested, and we started running into more hunters each and every year. At times it became frustrating because the grounds that we were used to hunting or that we wanted to hunt were just infested with other hunters. So as time went on, we decided to move to the southern part of the hunting grounds. Now, accessing the southern part of this ranch, we entered it using a different entrance, and there was no longer a paved 2-lane highway. Instead, there was a county-maintained road that went in that was well-maintained, but it was gravel, and that ran for about 20 plus miles before we reached the ranch, and then the roads would get a lot rougher. So 2 years ago was the first time that we decided to go to this new location, and I brought my trailer along. And needless to say, it was a lot tougher getting my big fifth wheel trailer into this location. It took us a couple hours, but we did manage to get the trailer back to a nice little wooded area where we were parked amongst the trees to block the wind or anything else going on. It was really a beautiful location, but it was tough to get into. The roads were really rough. It was very slow going, and it just wasn't ideal for a fifth wheel trailer, but it was still nice to have. That year, there were 4 of us staying in my trailer. Now, let me take a step back. We have a large group of guys that goes up elk hunting each and every year. Not everybody comes every year. Sometimes they don't get picked for a tag. Sometimes they have other things going on. So we could have as few as 4 people one year and as many as 12 or 15 the next. It all depended on who was available and who had tags. This year, when I had brought my trailer up 2 years ago, we couldn't get it back in far enough to meet up with all of the other guys that were there. They were probably another 2 miles back, but the roads got a little too rough for me to pull my trailer back there. So we decided to stay in a different location in my trailer. Now, out of the 4 guys that were there, we already knew that 2 of them were going to leave early because they had family obligations. So I think they were there for the first 3 or 4 days. And then that left my father-in-law and I, and another group of hunters that were a couple miles away that we would communicate with and go see occasionally, stop by their camp if we were driving around, etc. One of my buddies that's with me has a older Tacoma, a 3rd gen Tacoma. And while I would bring the trailer and tow that up with the dually, we would always use his Tacoma to get around the ranch. Driving around the ranch in the dually was a painful affair. With the suspension on that dually and the 4 wheels in the rear, it really wasn't meant for 4-wheeling and off-roading and small roads on a ranch, and it was painful. So using the Tacoma was a beautiful thing because we could drive around at 30, 40 miles an hour easily, even in a stock Tacoma. Now, while he had a stock Tacoma, there were many times that we had wished that it were upgraded because the roads were awfully rough at times. They were rutted, they were muddy. So there were several times where we were pushing that little Tacoma over its limits and scraping the bottom, and he did not have skid plates. So knowing that was helpful. So 2 years ago when we went hunting, after my 2 friends initially left after day 3 and 4, so left the Tacoma and we were stuck using the dually. Now, while it was possible to use the dually to get around the ranch, it was awfully painful and you really didn't want to go far. So on that 4th or 5th day, I forget exactly, the other person that was with me, my father-in-law, found out that there was a family medical emergency and he had to leave also. Now, normally this wouldn't have been a problem for me. I would have stayed and hunted by myself, or I would have gone and met up with the other group of hunters that were a couple miles away. However, as I looked into the weather and everything that was coming for the next few days, there was a strong possibility that we were either going to get freezing rain and or snow. And with my father-in-law having to leave, I did not want to be out there by myself and try and get my trailer out of there by myself. He also had a dually Duramax, so if I got stuck for any reason, I could always rely on him to pull me out or help me out. But with him leaving, I was now on my own, and I wasn't comfortable staying out there by myself. And unfortunately, I was too far away from the other group of hunters, and I couldn't get my trailer over there. And I didn't have any tent or equipment to sleep outside to just go and stay in their camp. But again, I didn't want to get my trailer stuck and be on my own out there. So I decided to leave and take my trailer home. That decision was one of the most frustrating decisions I've ever had to make in my life because I didn't get my elk that year. I had to leave early, and that's something I really didn't want to do because I loved hunting and I really wanted to get an elk for my family. So that whole drive home, I just thought about the issue and I came to some major decisions. And that was that I was no longer going to bring my trailer hunting. I wanted to be able to be more mobile. In fact, I even wanted to be able to move around the ranch more if I had to and find different hunting grounds and be able to get there easily and set up a tent or something without having to worry about a trailer. So it was in that moment driving home that I decided that I was going to sell my side-by-side and sell my old 2003 4Runner that I absolutely loved, that had 150,000 miles on it, and build a new hunting truck. Now, I know some people are going to ask, why didn't you just use the 2003 4Runner? And that's because it wasn't a 4-wheel drive. If it was a 4-wheel drive, I just would have kept the 2003 4Runner and just fixed that up and used that as my hunting truck. That would have been sufficient. However, it wasn't 4-wheel drive, so I needed to do something else. So again, I sold my Honda side-by-side that I had for several years. I sold my 2003 4Runner, and I started thinking about buying a new Tacoma and fixing it up like my friend wished he had done before when we were hunting, and using that as my new hunting truck. And that is how we got here today.